Kick Assets. Cha-ching!
Hello everyone, I'm Colin from Kick Assets, and today I'm going to make a video on an interview I did around 3 or so years ago with a guy named Shu Matsu Posts. Now this original video that he did the interview with me came suddenly. It was because he was making clickbait videos, propaganda videos on why it was bad to invest in Japan. And as you know, I had 10 houses at the time. So I completely disagreed with him. And I commented on that video stating otherwise. And I wasn't very nice in my words either. But instead of him arguing with me, he asked if he could come over to interview me. And that's what created this interview. So yeah, basically one comment created the chain reaction to everything that happened from this point on. And as you know, because of that interview, we started doing business together. We made a company. We made a boot camp. And we started to grow from there. And sadly, somewhere along the line, we broke up. Wasn't my doing, but hey, it is what it is. But I just thought I'd come back and review this amazing interview, because this interview was a cornerstone for not only his life, but my life, because we both grow in different ways after that. And doing a search on YouTube to try to find that video, as you can see, it didn't come up. It came up with this other stuff here, other videos, which is kind of surprising. You'd think it would obviously make that video, but instead it brought up my thank you and goodbye Shu Matsu Post video where we broke up. So I had to go to his channel to actually find the video. And as you can see here, he had so many views so as the time went on. But my interview with him had 183,000 views, which is insane. It's one of his top 5 to 10 videos for sure. And obviously other videos got more views after that because he started getting traction on YouTube and other bases. As you know, I don't do TikToks and shorts as much as he does. I've done maybe 10 to 15 so far. And I should be more consistent when I'm doing that. And that's why he basically focused on growing his channel, his YouTube channel, as being an influencer, while I focused on building the product. That's what was really upsetting to me, is because for about a year I was behind the scenes building a product to give the clients to help them buy houses and building a boot camp for people to learn about it. So my channel didn't grow as fast as his, big time. And once he started growing like crazy, then I guess I was no longer of use. Sad to say, but it is what it is, you know. And of course I was shocked by that because I did not plan for that. My goal was to, you know, be behind the scenes. It's kind of like Steve Jobs and Wozniak for Apple. So, you know, the brains and the talker. Unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes in life, you know. Even though I wasn't happy about it, I couldn't do anything about it. So, and unfortunately in the YouTube world, you need to have that growth to keep getting out there, or else you drown. And now, because I didn't do that originally, I'm drowned out by everybody else that does it, you know. I suppose I could try to do more clickbait stuff, but I just can't do it. And I can't make faces like this, unfortunately. And even in my thumbnail there, he tried to get me to do it, but I just wouldn't do it. I just can't do it, man. Sorry, guys. For me, that stuff comes off as cheesy and as Ty Lopez salesy, and I'm just not that kind of guy, you know. Not for me. All right, so today we're going to watch the video.
So Colin,
all right,
thanks for inviting me to your house. You're one of your Akiya houses. So you bought 10 Akiya houses in the last 10 years, mm-hmm. right? And before getting to that, so you're from Canada, Vancouver originally, and you came here in 2000? 2000. Okay,
2000.
So
January 2000.
Tell us about that. Like, how did you come to Japan? And
you got 10 hours?
Maybe shorten it a little bit, but yeah. So and then, you know, you've started this real estate journey. You're an English teacher. You started mm-hmm. business, all that stuff. How did you start your real estate investing?
That's a really long journey.
Okay.
But to sum it up really quickly is I got tired of Canada, Vancouver. Yeah. Didn't see any potential there.
Yeah.
And I needed something new.
Yeah.
And it's not like I knew Tokyo was the place.
Yeah.
I just said anywhere but there, and I just came here, and it worked out that this was a blessing in disguise. So yeah, it's a great country.
How did you start your real estate investing journey in Japan?
Well, basically it started because I didn't want to pay any more rent. Who wants to pay rent, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I am. Okay. But
you're paying rent?
Yeah.
I thought you bought your house.
No, well, I'm thinking about buying a house.
Oh, you own properties in
Yeah.
other places.
Yeah. So like my.
But this is not about him.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
It's about
Pretty much
Colin
here.
today. Actually, I've been saying that rent where you live and own where you live, or own where you rent. That's
Sorry,
kind of like one of my
guys.
philosophies.
I
But
joke
that
too
might
much
change in the
sometimes.
future. We just do like the flexibility because honestly, we're not sure if we're gonna live in Japan forever. So
Oh.
that's that's one of the reasons.
That's a good reason. And the other one is I say rent office space, but own real estate.
Hmm.
Because you don't, like you said, real estate office space is harder to rent on that sense, and also
Yeah.
you don't know, you're never gonna live there yourself. At least if you have your own home,
Yeah.
at the very least you can park a tent on it. You can live in your own house, right? So
Right.
if you have one property, but also owning your first house helps get your other houses a lot quicker because you're not pissing away your most expensive expense on rent. You know, 30-40% of your income goes to rent, right? So why would you want to do that when you
Yeah.
can save that? So after I bought my first property, I was able to save a lot faster, and each house you get, you can get the next house even faster because you're getting rental income. Plus, you're not paying any. I don't have any bills, right?
Mm.
So, but the only property I ever had a loan on was my first one because it was quite expensive. But the mortgage was
Mhm.
covered by the rent when I eventually started renting out.
Yeah.
And I paid off that place in 10 years. So
Wow.
now I have no loans or no mortgages or nothing like that. So everything that comes in is just
I still agree with that. Buying a condo is not the end of the world. If it's your first property, I'm okay with that. Just something to start off with. Obviously, now that I look back at it, I wish my first property was a house because in Japan, houses are very, very cheap, especially compared to condos, right? In every other country, houses are way more expensive than condos, but here, you can actually buy a condo or a house cheaper than a condo at times. Of course, it depends on what it is. If you get a one-room place, then it'll be dirt cheap, but there'll be a strata fee on that. So, yeah, I would have bought a house if I'm restarting now, considering how cheap they are in my area. But it's not that I'm regretting my purchase of that condo. It was good value, but it was quite expensive, and I needed to get a loan. But that was the max of my limit, was 20 million yen to buy something. So, getting rid of that rent or an expense, right? It's not always about making money. It's also about what you're not spending.
10 houses.
towards another place.
Zero mortgage.
Zero mortgages.
Wow. Free and clear.
It's pretty insane, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've always been good at saving money,
Yeah.
so I'm blessed that way.
Yeah.
But your question was about my first place or how I got
no,
into it? Well,
no, you answered it. Yeah.
it was just a coincidence, to be honest, when I found my first place. Like, I walked by an apartment building and I saw it for a really decent price. That didn't
That
seem
is
normal for
pretty
Yamanote
insane.
line
Yeah.
for Tokyo. It
Yeah.
seemed really cheap. And I was paying, let's say I was paying 10 万円 a month for rent. 50-minute walk from Nishinipori Station, say, or Tabata, around that area, okay? And for an older place, and not my place. So when I walk by a place and I look at the mortgage payments per month are going to be 8万円 cheaper. Plus you have your kanrihi, which in English is strata fees, which was at the time
I
was 100 something,
apologize.
now it's 200 something.
Interviews,
So at the time was decent cheap. So still under 10万円, still under $1,000 a month,
We're also
which is the
video
same price I was
forever.
paying, or cheaper than where I was currently living at the time, for a brand new place, my place, 10 minutes from the station, right? So
You learning
it's quite an
anything?
easy decision.
Mm.
The only friction I had in that situation was my wife at the time.
Mhm.
She didn't want to do it because she didn't want to have the pressure of paying a mortgage, which is, I understand part of that, but at the same time, in life, no matter where you live, you need to pay for rent or something, right? So if you have to pay that, if it's an expense you get rid of completely, I understand, but if it's something you have to pay, so why not make it at least paying it for yourself, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I can advise you as a first property, which I didn't do in my first place, is you don't
I
need to
bet
go
she
big.
regrets that now.
In my position, my area was big, it was Yamanote, which is huge, and the place is a brand new building, which is huge.
She didn't believe me when I said I'd pay it off in 10 years, and I actually kept my word. That was my goal. But I don't blame her. I was young, and a lot of people like to talk, especially foreigners and Japanese are just scared to do that kind of stuff. So, curious to know what she thinks now. Unfortunately, I haven't talked to her in years. 20.
Okay. But the good point about it is that it wasn't ridiculously expensive. It was actually 20 million yen, which is 200K at the time, which is a really good deal for
maybe
Yamanote line, right?
19,
If you think about it, especially for
18
Tokyo, and that place is going to go up. But if you're going to spend $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 on your first place, that's a bad decision.
Right.
Because your mortgage payments are going to be massive. You're going to be in debt for a long time. You're not going to be able to get your second, third property faster. So you want to minimize. So if I was to restart over again, I would buy a one-room condo mansion or a really cheap house. A one-room condo that was maybe, I'd say 2, 3, 4 million yen. Because in Japan you can get a lot of those places that are cheap for just one room.
Yeah.
No problem. Or a house if you can find from really in some area for a dirt cheap price. Because you want to eliminate your monthly rent payments, right?
Yeah.
So if you can buy, anybody can save
Cheap house.
$20,000, $30,000, $40,000.
Mhm.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no excuses. You cut back on your drinking.
Only
You cut
because
back on
they're
your
cheap
smoking.
in
You cut back on
Japan.
overpaying rent. You cut back on your car. You cut back on all the stupid. Yeah, you can get towards that goal, right?
Yeah.
So that's why if I could start over, but I didn't, and that was my first heavy duty property. And the good thing was is that even though I did buy that, after I bought it, within I'd say was it 2 or 3 years, I moved to a cheaper place. I actually moved to a one room. Why you ask? I went from a nice new condo to a one room. I was paying 5 万円 a month. Why did I do that? Think about it. Because I was having somebody else rent my condo in Tokyo, paying 15万円 a month. Paying towards my mortgage and pretty much paying for my one room rent in another place. So I was living rent free off of my condo. Think about that. And while my condo's being paid for, right?
Right.
Truth of the matter is, I was kind of forced to do that as well. Not only was it a smart decision, but it was kind of the universe speaking, because at the exact same time, I was getting a divorce, she didn't actually like the fact I bought it, even though she co-signed for me. And half my students were being stolen from my school, so my income went. I sold my condo, made $100K from my condo sale in Vancouver, which I put the money towards the condo I bought here in Japan, and I bought the school for $50K with, So after running the school for about a year and a half, and the teachers took all my students and caused me to, basically that divorce and that situation with the school caused me to have to rent out my condo because my income went down to almost nothing, and caused me to rent out my condo, which was actually a blessing in disguise, because it made me start fresh again. And I had to spend 2 years or 3 years of my life rebuilding my school and keeping my expenses low, so it kind of forced me to be like that, which I'm very appreciative. Even though it was a bad time, it actually had its purpose, and unfortunately, what happened with the school is spending $50K on a school and having go back down to almost nothing. And I basically went from being a boss, an owner, to a teacher again. And I had to be humble once again in my life. So, but that's why it happened, and I appreciate it.
The taxes, of course.
Yeah.
And it helped me save quicker because I was living there at the time by myself because my wife disagreed with my purchase. And I said, I'm doing it. And I stayed there by myself for 2 years. And I realized I don't need to live in this location. I don't need all this space in Tokyo. And I didn't want to get a roommate, so I just rather rent it out and go live somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So that's what happened. So that's how I redeemed myself from making a heavy duty purchase at the beginning. But at the end, it wasn't really that heavy duty. It was in the middle ground. It was a big purchase, but still reasonably priced if you think about it. Tokyo real estate, right? So $20 million now. It's super cheap for.
You can't find that anywhere today.
So for people who don't know Tokyo or Japan, Yamanote Line is the busiest train line in all of Japan, right? It's like it has to be. It's the circle line that goes around all the major stations, and Tabata Nishi Nippori were very.
Yeah, that was a very good deal at the time. Very good deal, because prices in Tokyo now are nothing like that anymore. So I'm glad I did buy it. So this is my worst investment on a property, I'd say. One of my worst for ROI, for monthly rental income. But it's probably the property that went up the most, I'd say. So, yeah, there's that.
Undervalued at the price. Japan, Nishi Nippori and Tabata were very undervalued at the time, and I knew that. And I guess that's why I was renting there at the time.
Yeah.
And I saw value. So sorry.
One of the things that I say on my channel is Japan's population is decreasing. Yeah. So if you take a look at it, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, the house is not going to appreciate. What do you say to that?
That's a bunch of baloney.
Is it?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
If you look like a country like Canada, which has a population of maybe 35 million now, it grows because of immigration.
Blah.
Because people aren't having babies anymore, and the size of Canada is massive, but yet somehow the properties are way overvalued there. To buy a house in Canada is $1.5 million for a in Vancouver City. If you want to buy like a mansion, actually, I had a condo in Vancouver before I bought my place in Tokyo. I actually owned a condo in Vancouver.
Ah, did you? Okay.
Yes, because when I came to Japan in 2000, I actually lived here for 3 years, and I left with my wife to go back to Canada for 8 months because I thought I'm Canadian, I gotta go live in Canada. That was a mistake. I lived there for 8 months. I regretted it. But I saved up $20,000 teaching English, and an area of Vancouver, East Vancouver, was very low valued at the time. Oh, it's druggies and all this going on there. It's not a safe area. I'm like, it's in Vancouver. Eventually, all of Vancouver's gonna go up. I'm like, no, why would you buy there? Ignore them. I bought. Why would I pay rent? And at the time, the condos in that area, wood buildings, were like 20 years old, and they were wood, and they were selling between 70 and 90K. There's a lot of ones for sale, used ones, right? Wow. So I said, instead of paying rent, why not buy one of those? So I bought that.
Glad I did that decision. If I listened to all the negative Nellies out there, I might have not bought it. Unfortunately, in life, you got to do that sometimes, because people tend to be sheep, or crabs in a bucket, we'll call it, where they just follow each other. Some propaganda, they just repeat that propaganda, or a clickbait news article, they repeat that. They don't actually think for themselves, and sadly, well, they think they do, but, like population decline is one of those things, and, yeah, it can be an issue, but it's also an issue in every single country in the world. Sorry, first world countries, that is. And how do you fix that? Either have more kids, which is not going to happen because it's too expensive, or B, immigration. And immigration is good in small amounts, but if it's too much, it ruins a country. So, I'm not going to get political here, but it's the truth of the matter. And Vancouver or Canada invited a lot of people in, which just dilutes everything and kind of makes the market crazy, where Japan is a little bit different in that sense. And I want Japan to stay Japan, so. And unfortunately, importing people is not going to fix the problem. It band-aided for a while, but you got to let it happen. Just let it happen. So basically, if I listened to my friends, I would have never bought that property in Vancouver, and I would have made $100K to get the ball rolling of buying the school and buying the condo here. I mean, I still got the condo here because it was a loan, but it just made it that much easier.
And that's when the
so
Vancouver started going
up from
there.
Don't let people get in your way in life.
Which helped me get money eventually to put a little bit towards my condo I had and buy my school. that I'm teaching.
Trust your
now.
instinct.
So for population, you can see that Vancouver has gone up no matter what, and there's a lot of empty spaces there. And eventually, Tokyo. I mean, yeah, Japan babies are going down, but there's two things. One, you got to realize people are going to move into bigger cities. It's not like people are going to just vanish. So I'm not saying there are bad areas. Of course there are. You're going to have cities that go bankrupt because there's nobody want to live there anymore because they're inconvenient. You don't invest in those areas unless you want to go make a paintball court or something like that, something big.
Right.
Which you can get some really good deals. Even Canada, you wouldn't get that for that cheap. So Japan is really undervalued in that sense. So if you have the money to splurge, buy that stuff. But if you're looking for investing, you look for just outside of Tokyo, sometimes in Tokyo on the outskirts, or bigger cities, right?
Yeah.
Where there's potential for renters. That's what you got to look at properties.
Humble.
And no matter how population goes down, people are always going to want to come to Japan, whether it's Japanese people from outskirts or foreigners. Japan's a great country. Why would people not want to live here? It's a great country. It's unique. It's safe. It's the safest country in the world. I stand by that. Okay, you cannot go to any other country. I go to my own. Canada's a really safe country. I go there, I feel in danger. I don't feel safe there. I feel at unease. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Unease all the time. In America, I feel even worse. But I come here, I don't feel any of that. There's what's the word in English? I'm losing my English, folks. Animosity.
Yeah.
Animosity in the air. I feel that when I go back home into Canada and America, but I don't feel that here. Where people are. What are you looking at?
Yep, and not to mention that the cities themselves are actually growing. It's the countryside where population's shrinking and people are leaving and they're coming to the big cities. So Saitama and Tokyo and big cities like that are always worth it. So everybody can buy whatever property they want, what suits them. But for investors' point, obviously cities is the safer investment because their resale value is obviously higher. But then again, properties in the middle of nowhere are peanuts, so maybe one day they will worth something. Nobody can predict that. You just got to go by instinct and odds.
Like that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
What are you looking at? What are you doing? They give you this attitude, but here you rarely get that.
Yeah.
And every time I go back, I feel that. I'm like, oh, I gotta change myself how I am. I can't be the hey, how you doing, everybody kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Some people like that, but there's the occasional people that don't, and they
Yeah.
give you a hard time about it. They just
You gotta look out for yourself, right?
Yeah, you always gotta watch your back. You can't leave your bike on the street. If I left my bike on the street in Vancouver, which I've done, I went inside an office building for 20 minutes, left my bike chained up, come back out, both my tires were gone from my bike. I'm walking home. I have a 30-minute walk from the condo I bought.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why that was one of my first experiences. I'm like, what the f-? When I was walking down and I needed tires, so I stopped in this used shop to see if they had any bike tires for my thing. And guess what I found? My tires for sale for $30.
No.
Yeah. So I actually bought back my own tires for $30. Some guy stole them, walked down to the nearest used shop and sold them. I got $2, $5 for them to buy some
guys.
cigarettes or drugs or whatever, alcohol. And I had to pay for my own bicycle to get home. So that's when I realized, I'm like, why am I living in the city? And that's when I came back to Japan. So yeah, no, I don't think there's an issue with the population. People always try to find the negative things about Japan or whatever here. I'm like, that's not an issue. Japan still has 120 million people.
125.
125, okay. That's still 4 times bigger than Canada, maybe 3 something, okay, right? So, and a really small place. Do you see any issues there? No. I think a lot of countries in the world are going to face the same population issue other than immigration, right? Because people want to live there. So I actually think things will get better, to be honest. And especially in my experience now, and Japan has been in a stalemate, has been stagnant for years. Japan had the bubble in the 80s,
90s, yeah.
70s, 80s, and early 90s, and it snapped like that. Now Vancouver and North America and some cities are going through the bubble. The liberal cities mainly are going through the bubble in North America. And people lose sense of reality. So after that bubble hit Japan, they were going through 20, 30 years of just blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And then I'd say it started beeping around 2007, 8, where the properties started to rise a little bit. And since Corona hit, the properties have gone up a lot more because people see the potential now. If you look at New York, Vancouver, LA, all these big cities in the world, you look at the property there, they're all really expensive. Singapore, Hong Kong, all really expensive. Why? And then you look at Japan, Tokyo. Why is the biggest city in the world the only place that actually still has affordable properties and actually cheaper properties than the rest of the world when it's the biggest city in the world and it's an amazing city? It makes no sense. So eventually, people might see that, which they are, and they're actually buying it up. Especially people from China who want to invest their money elsewhere. That's what happened to Vancouver. A lot of people invested there, so that's why properties went up like crazy, right? I don't know if there's any powers behind that are stopping the Chinese from coming here or doing that. I know they're buying stuff here, but they're not buying as much as I think they should.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Why?
maybe I'm just not aware of it. They're buying stuff.
Why
from
is
Vancouver,
Japan
but I'm just like,
so
why is the
cheap?
market not taking a hit like Vancouver is? Do they feel safer in Vancouver? Is because there's some laws behind them owning stuff here? I don't know the details on that. So.
Okay, so why do you think all those other cities are expensive? Japan is cheap. Population going down could be one reason. But the truth is that Japan is scared to be in that bubble again. We're back in the 70s and 80s where Japan was in a massive bubble. The rest of the Western countries were kind of cheap, especially Canada and Australia. But now it's the complete opposite. So that's how fluctuation works. And the Japanese don't want to have that issue again. The only reason they're going to possibly go up now is because of pressure from the other countries and inflation. So, yeah, here's the point where I changed the trajectory of his entire life. He went from not investing in Japan to running an empire here himself. And he put from 10 houses up to 21 because I was going to stop after this interview. So this meeting right here, this moment, boom, is where all the stuff happened. Wow, we created a new sun. unfortunately, it got too hot and burned us all out. But yeah, so points in your life. If you remember back to the exact point where either something got destroyed or went massively in a good way. So this was the moment where it was a good thing for both of us, and where we started to grow like crazy.
So you and I basically do the exact opposite.
Which I'm very thankful for.
I grew up here. I'm from Japan, and I only invest in the U.S. for now. I'm considering investing.
Thanks, Shu.
And now, now that I talk to you, but you were from Canada, and you only now invest in Japan, right?
Yes.
And we just talked about the population issues, but what is your exit strategy with all your properties? Like 20 years, 30 years down the road, do you worry about that, or?
I hate this question, and I hear it from investors all the time. In reality, nobody knows what tomorrow brings, and nobody can predict the future. We can have some ideas of what might happen, but the truth is you need the skills of troubleshooting and quick actions. That's why you keep everything tight. That way you can go with the ebbs and flows of life, And because I'm sticking to real estate, I can choose what I want when I want because I'm in control of a lot of that, unlike stocks, etc. As for an exit strategy, you have to choose what works for you. You don't have to exit. You could just keep them for the rest of your life and live off of rents. Or you can sell a few houses in the future. It's not like one day, okay, it's 2045, I'm now 100 years old, all out, We don't know. So this question's kind of annoying. But it is what it is. There are no easy answers for everything in life, and stop trying to label everything, please.
Well, you always get the negative things. What happens if an earthquake hits? Right. All that stuff.
Yeah.
If shit hits the fan, it hits the fan. It's gonna hit the fan for everywhere. So right, doesn't matter. I could sell all my properties, but I think the best bet is just to keep collecting rent because that's
buy and hold.
Yeah, it's cash flow.
Yeah.
It's the best investment.
Yeah.
That's why I don't invest in anything else. Honestly, I only invest in real estate because it has so many ways to make money. Everything else is just usually one way to make money.
Yeah.
Real estate, you get money by going up in value because of a bubble. You get rent coming in, and you got your own place, you got your own land, you can plant your own garden, whatever. You do whatever you want. There's so many options in real estate.
Yeah.
If shit hits the fan, you can still use it, right?
It's a real
thing. You can touch it. Everything else is just bull. Okay. It is what it is. You can make money off of other stuff if you're in the right time, but you only make money when it goes up, other than dividends. But you still don't it's not yours. You have no control over it.
Yeah.
You have no say. I can sell it whenever I want. I can rent how much ever I want. I can give discounts, charge more. I can do what I want. If I get the money, I get the money, right? And I can continue adding to that. That is cool that you say that about coming from different places. I mean, I won't invest in Canada or the States. I don't know anything about the States, but like I said, the liberal cities are very overvalued at the moment, like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Vancouver. It's not worth it. It's like my Japanese friend here. He saw what I was doing here many years ago, and I said, look, if you sell your house, we could buy 10 properties over here. This is when I had my dream to originally start buying 10 properties. Yeah. And he told me, you do that on your own. Because originally I had only 2 properties at the time. And I'm like, if you sell your house, we'll go 50-50, and I'll look for all the houses, you just send over the money, we'll get it all going, and I'll invest as well. And he's like, no, I want to hold on to my asset here. I'm like, dude, your house is worth $2.5 million for one house.
What do I know?
Like, yeah? What's it going to go up higher? You're risking it going down one, and even if you rented out that house, what's the most you can get for rent on that house? 3, 4, 5 grand a month, right? Okay. Say you get $5 grand a month for that house, at 2.5 for the house. That's insane ratio for rent versus value of the house, right? I told him you could sell that house, move over here. He's actually Japanese descendant, but born there.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I told him sell your house, you can come over here and buy 25 houses, and you can turn that into 25 grand a month in rent. Think about that, and that's lowballing it. That's lowballing. I think 2.5 million, right? Because if you buy a house for 150K, okay, and you rent it out for $1,000 or $1,500.
I wonder if my friend regrets that.
Think about that. So that's why I say investing in Japan is great, because I could buy a house for 100K-ish or better, and if I get 800, 900,000, if I get more than 1,000, it's just gravy, right?
He's
and it's
not
paid
into
off
money
like
anymore.
that, so fast.
He's into
like
money.
my house,
Obviously,
second
but
house,
he's not
my first house, my second property.
He doesn't. It's not a priority in his life
maybe,
now.
but it's already paid for itself, and then it's all
We all hit
income.
different
It's already paid for what I paid for,
milestones in
right?
life.
So in your Vancouver house, you can own the house for 500 years. Maybe it's a bit exaggerating, but okay, 200 years, you still wouldn't have to pay it off. It's insane, right? 5,000 times 12, 16K a year. It's insane. 10 years.
Love and health become more important.
I'm not exaggerating. It's a long time, right? So it's just the value isn't there. And I tried telling him that. He's like, no, you do you, and you don't. And at the time, I didn't have that much money, so to take a gamble, I was like really intimidated. Like, yeah, I want to do it, but to get 100K, I couldn't save that much money that fast, right? So I had to really buckle down. It's easier now, but at the beginning, it's harder, right? So that would just sped up.
Snowball, right?
It's a snowball. With him, it would have sped up my process. But I would have lost half my business to him, right? So I'm actually kind of glad he said no, because it made me wealthier, made me focus. It took me a little bit longer to get there. 10 years.
But you're growing faster.
Yeah, but I'm growing faster now. And 10 years is actually not that long, considering, right?
But
with him, it could have been done in
That's
3 or 4 years. So yeah.
So
it might not be
my audience, a lot of my audience is English speaking. So they're outside of outside of Japan, and they're wondering how can they do it. So you're from Canada, and I know you speak Japanese pretty well. But how important is it to be able to speak Japanese to do what you do?
It's important. Yes.
You need to have it.
It's important to not only speak Japanese, but to
understand the culture.
Think like a Japanese. Your addition as a foreigner you can add to it is be more flexible and more charming. because Japanese are very rigid.
Yeah.
So you can add your foreign side to that and
Yeah.
make jokes and have fun. And 90% of the time, you'll loosen up the mood.
Yeah.
You get the occasional anal retentive person, obviously, because
Yeah.
Japanese culture is based on anal retentive. If you live here long enough, you understand that.
Yeah.
They're very focused on doing things, which is good in lots of ways,
Yeah.
but it has its bad sides as well, right?
Right.
They're not flexible. Whereas foreigners are the opposite. Foreigners are too loose and too flexible, and that's how the Japanese view us, is that attitude. So when I come in speaking Japanese fluently and confidently, but humbly at the same time, you have to, that balance is really hard. When you do that, they respect that. But if you come in as a non-speaker, right away, minus points. You're too troublesome to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's not a racist thing. I'm tired of people saying that.
Yeah.
This is Japan.
People don't speak English.
Yeah, they don't speak English, and they're not bowing down to you. They have pride in their own culture and their own language, like English speakers do. Japanese don't go to Canada or the US and expect you to speak Japanese. They go over there struggling and trying to get through it, and they appreciate the struggle.
Yeah.
Even if your Japanese is not perfect, they'll give you a pass if they see you're trying.
Yeah, exactly.
They won't view you as 100% like, oh, this guy's amazing, but at least you're trying, and they'll give you a pass. But if you don't try at all, and you come over and expect to run them over or bulldoze them because you're American or Canadian or whatever, Japanese won't tell you to their face, and that's why Japanese get called two faces. They'll be polite to you, but in their mind they're like, no, sorry, I'm not dealing with you.
Yeah.
And it's not a racist thing. It's just you're honestly troublesome to deal with, and people don't understand that. And I always get in arguments with foreigners about that stuff too, right? Because they think, oh, Japanese are racist or this or that. I'm like, actually, no, they're not. They're just proud about their culture, and of course they're racist no matter where you go, but a lot of them just don't want to deal with foreigners because foreigners are loose, they don't follow the rules, they're hard to communicate with, so, and it ruins us for the ones that actually try. But when I show that I'm willing to put in the time and I actually speak fluent Japanese, that goes away right away. They treat me like almost, I don't want to say equal, but they treat me like I'm a normal dude here, which is very important.
Yeah.
And that helps me get better deals on my houses as well. So it does help.
Yeah. So
it's intimidating though.
Can you? I mean, it's awesome that you learn how to speak Japanese as well, and you're pretty good at it. And I really enjoy listening to your sense of humor as well.
Yeah.
Like,
You actually get my jokes. My Japanese is not bad.
Yeah.
Then
Good.
this is coming from a Japanese guy. Okay.
I like it. I think as a Japanese person, I
my
appreciate
dumbass jokes.
Yeah. Because like real estate, it's numbers games, but it's actually a people.
It's a people thing, man.
It's
it's numbers and people.
Knowing
when to say what,
when to say what, and knowing who has the information,
That's
who
right.
has the information.
You know, it's all you have to. A lot of stuff revolving through your brain, all in the split of a second. You just gotta know. It's not a yes, no, easy, do this. It's not like that.
Yeah.
You just know on the spot.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you really like my jokes and stuff because those kind of jokes show that you actually think. Because not only is it in another foreign language, but a lot of Japanese wouldn't.
Yep, like I said there, you come over here, you go and buy a house on your own. It's not impossible, but it's really, really hard. Most people are gonna ignore your phone calls or emails or what have you, and they're gonna be afraid to deal with you, not just because there's language barrier, but commitment, etc. So that's why people will use somebody like me or Shu to do this, because you need that safety net. And when somebody uses me and I go talk to them, even at first they're like, oh, okay. And then within 5 minutes of the conversation, they realize, oh, this guy's a good guy. And he understands the process, etc. And then they'll start. And once that ball rolls, it goes smoothly from there. And it gets better as each moment goes on. But if you don't start off on the right foot with language and understanding culture, you're not going to get anywhere. And also by using me, I can save you money on the actual home and tell you what a good or bad deal is. So there's a lot of benefits to actually paying somebody like myself to help you, but if you already live here and speak Japanese, then you don't need me. You can gamble it on your own. There are wins. There's many reasons why you should use somebody to help you do it. And I say me, even though it costs extra money to use someone like me, it's worth it. Using an agent, the agent doesn't have your best interest in mind most of the times. They just want to get a sale done. It is what it is, right? So, and unfortunately, 9 out of 10 agents here have no clue. It's sad to say, but most people here are just salesmen. They're not actually real estate gurus. So that's my sales pitch for the day.
Make those jokes. So they always like, did he just say that? I say a lot of stupid stuff in my things, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And they never get offended. Nothing like that. So yeah. I'm glad you like that.
Like you walked into an agent's office and you fixed his computer and you're like, hey, can I get a discount or something?
You like that? Isn't that funny? He was having basically the contract was misprinted. He couldn't get it printed on the actual correct paper size. And so I actually sat down in his office and I gave him some yuzu from my tree out there as well, present, and I helped him fix the computer, get the printing working in 15 minutes. He's like, wow. And that's why I asked, can I get a discount as a joke?
Yeah.
And he said no.
Yeah.
However, this guy was amazing because he did something most people don't do when you buy a house. He actually cleaned the house. He hired a cleaner to clean my house for me, which is not his responsibility. And he gave me 2 copies of the key because I said, oh, there's only 1 copy of the key. Usually when you buy a house, you get 2 or 3 copies of the key, right? The original and maybe another one. He's like, oh, there was only 1. We don't know what happened to the other key. And he's like, I'll make you 2 copies. And he went away and did that for me, which you don't have to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you never know. And Japanese has a big effect on that kind of stuff. The relationship, it's huge. It is so huge, and it's intimidating that I say that because then people are like, oh, I gotta go study Japanese. Unfortunately, when it's something big like this, there's no easy answer, quick fix. You have to put in the time.
Yeah.
And especially for Japanese people, they don't like when you're doing business with a Japanese person. They don't look for the price or this or that like foreigners do or Chinese do at the time. What's the final offer? What's the discount? What are we gonna do? Let's get a deal done. They're not like that. Japanese look at the person first. And they see if this person's worth dealing with, not just for money alone, but how they handle themselves, how they talk in a situation. If you want to deal with them they won't sell to you, even though another guy will offer more money. Sometimes they won't sell to him because not that they don't like him, they just don't like. They come in with that business straight attitude.
Yeah.
It's like a person thing at the same time, as well as business on top of it. And you gotta remember when you're dealing in real estate, the people who won't.
I love joking, but I also love being serious, and sometimes melding together. I got a plan. I'm the Mad Hatter. But anyhow, it's important to take things serious in life and keep your integrity, but also be lighthearted and have a good time. And you got to find that balance, especially with Japanese people, because they're very rigid and they follow the rules. So you got to know when to weave in and out with jokes and seriousness. And they like it, as Shu said here. Thanks, Shu, for liking my jokes. Appreciate it, man.
The house is just people, right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge part.
Oh, that's so important. Yeah.
It is very important.
Yeah.
How do you teach people that stuff?
Yeah.
You can give them advice, and I give them my stories of what happened, and hopefully they can troubleshoot that themselves and figure out what to do when.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to put myself out of business here giving all this free information though.
You won't. You're going to be receiving a lot of comments and messages. So. Yeah. So I get a lot of comments asking me like, hey, where do I find these Akiyas or cheap houses? So walk us through how you find them. Maybe like give us like 3 criteria. What do you look for? Like top 3 things. Here's the things. And how do you find them?
Well, that's a very, very big question. We probably make a 3-part video. Anyhow.
Yeah, we'll make a course out of it, but like,
yes.
you know, maybe bottom line it.
Everybody wants a simple answer.
See, he's doing it again. People doing it again, where they want some boxed information of what they know, just for an easy answer. It's like to package it up and here, take this. I don't like doing that, and I don't advise other people to do it as well. What do you look for in a property? There's 1,000 different things. You just instinct sometimes, you know. The easiest answer people could give is location, I suppose, is one thing, but I'm not here to give you an easy answer on that. I can give you some ideas, though, and you can justify what values in your area. So for me, the most important thing in a property would be instinct. Do I like it when I first see it? 2, value, okay? And then 3 would be location. And then 4, probably scarcity of how often does that particular property come on the market. So there's a whole pile of different things you could justify into this. But to actually package things into words just so I can make an article on it, it's pointless. So, you know, too many people do that in the world with ideas. So sorry for the cheap-ass answer, but that's what it is.
Very simple answer. First of all, you got to figure out what kind of property you want. I look for properties that can make me money.
Yeah, so what does that mean? Like 3 criteria?
Well, you have to look at, when you look at a property, you have to go in, you have to look at how much work do I have to put in. So you look at the price you're paying for the property, and then there's the detail of how much can I negotiate on this property, and how much of the fees you're going to pay for it, how much you're going to pay for renovations to get it all done. Yeah. So I know all these things from experience.
And how much it's going to rent for.
That's right. And then you compare that to how much is it rent for.
Yeah.
Is it going to be worth my time to do that?
Right.
So I look for a certain percentage I want to get on my.
Yeah. Is there like a range of price that you look for?
I always try to look for places under 10 million yen.
Which is
100K.
100K.
Wow. 1,000 American dollars. Now Canadian dollars, yeah, because the yen sucks.
Yeah.
80 American. Yeah. And now, because the prices have gone up, that's a lot harder to find. You have to look for areas. And now the reason I look for that is because when you rent out a property, if you made renting out a house, if somebody's paying you hachimayen, kyumayen, 800, 900,000 bucks for a month for rent, if you only paid 100K or less for your house, it's a good deal. You know, you're getting money. Yeah. It's not a big deal. But if you paid $300,000 for a house and you're only getting $1,000, no, it's not a good deal. So that's out of the picture. That's the big problem here, especially in Japan when, like, unlike America where rents have gone up like nuts, the Japanese don't allow the rents to go up so hard. It's not a government thing or whatever like that. It's nothing to do with that. It's called culture. See, we're not in a rat race here where Americans want to make money off of reselling, because you're in a bubble, and that's the mentality. I could buy this house so I can flip it tomorrow and make 10K, and the next person can make 10K, and he can make 10K, and that's why crypto and all these things go up like crazy. There's all fluff. Japan doesn't go down that route very strongly. They try to keep it down. They keep it real so that averages people, families can buy houses. Like a new house in my area, which is 30 minutes from Tokyo. A brand new house is 40 million yen. It was 30 million yen last year. A couple years ago, I should say. It went up a bit. It's 40 million, okay, which is 400K. It was 300 American $1,000 for a brand new house. It's not massive, but it's brand new. It's a good size and it's beautiful. And it's state of the art. That's normal. You want that. People can afford that on a new loan, which makes used houses even cheaper, like 20 million, half the price of 10. Used to be 10 million was easy to find, but now it's like 10 to 20 around that range, right, for used houses. But if you buy for that price and you rent it out, you can get rent. Because getting rent from somebody asking for Junin or Jumayen is reasonable. But if you start asking Nijumayen, Sanjumayen, Yonjumayen, you get higher up, that's a lot of money. So your renter choice is a lot lower, right? And those renters become more stricter. They want bigger places. They want nicer condition. They want better locations. There's a lot of strict stuff that come with that stuff. Like I had a renter before who I bought a house. They're like, we like the house. We appreciate your rent. But can you buy something in Tokyo so we can rent? Because we want to live in Tokyo now. I'm like, no, I cannot do that because a house in Tokyo might run you 600 and they want to pay the same rent for a house there. And I'm like, yeah, we'll pay you a little bit more. I'm like, the percentage wise doesn't have. Even if they paid me Nijumayen for $600,000 house, it's not worth it. I'd rather buy a $100,000 house and rent it out for $1,000. Right? The percentage there, it matches, and that way I get to my next house quicker. And also, you're starting funds to actually buy that house. You can buy it cash a lot easier, right? So you can't do that on a $500,000. I can't walk into a $500,000 house and say, yeah, I'll buy this cash. But a $100K house, I consider that because adding up all the rents you're getting, you can save the money up quicker to buy that, right? So once you buy a $500,000 house, you're out. Unless you're a millionaire. And if you're a millionaire, why are you buying that in the first place? So I just, sorry, 10 millionaire, I should say, because I'm a millionaire. If you know what I mean. Your cash flow must be massive, right?
So yeah, you know, buying a property, you're looking for something around 10 million, 100K. I just use that number because it's a safe investment. It's not a super lot of money, but it's a lot of money. And to get the money back, you only need to get $800,000, $900,000 back in rent, right? Which is very doable for a house. Obviously, this house can't be anywhere in the country. if you're going to pay that price, it's got to be in a semi-decent located area, obviously, attached to a semi-decent sized city. So here in Saitama, for example, which I get to Tokyo in 30 minutes to an hour, you know, it's possible to pay that off. But if it's in the middle of nowhere for that price, it's not going to happen. A, it's going to be harder to find tenants, and B, you might not get that much rent for it. So that's just something to consider, you know, when you're looking at investing the money. But, you know, priorities change. When I started this and my priorities now, they've completely changed. When I first started, it was all about ROI. How much money can I make? How much money can I make off the purchase of this property for future gains, you know, stuff like that. How long will it take to pay for itself? So, and then as time went on, and I had more properties, I could goof around more, and I didn't have to care so much. It became, how much do I really like this property? How scarce is this property? To now, where it's like, do I really need this property? Don't I have enough properties already? So these are just things you can weigh. I mean, I could spend my entire life, because I love doing this, buying every property I can. As there are many good properties, many very good properties, many gems, and many super gems. Okay, not so many super gems, but you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of opportunities to buy properties, but I don't have to. So these are things you got to consider as you're getting older. So there's no easy answer. But if ROI is your key, then you got to think about the price you're buying and how much you rent it out for. You know, if you just want a vacation home, then scarcity or area is something you might want to look at. To each their own. Well, there are two. Let me just sum that up. There are two kinds of flips in this country that I can tell you off the top of my head. The simple one is buying a property, renovating it, and reselling it. Now, some people do that. They buy a property that's run down, crap, and they put in either crap renovations into it and make a little money, or they make it look totally awesome. Crap meaning they go for bare minimum on the renovations, and they flip it. So one of my reno guys, that's what he does. He basically buys old houses, renovates, puts 10 million into them, and then tries to resell them for big money. So it's like it becomes a useless home to an awesome home. The other flipping style you see in Japan is where agents buy properties really cheaply off of people who don't know any better, like old people who want to get rid of their house, or a house that's non-rebuildable, and they're just doing it for a quick profit, where they get the house for almost nothing, and they're seeing what they can get it for. So, for example, they buy a house for like $10K, and they put it on the market for $60, and it keeps getting lower until they eventually sell it for $45 or $50K, and they make a profit. So, problem is we don't know the prices on these things. So, even though you think you're getting a good deal, sometimes they're actually making a lot of money, and you could have got it for cheaper if you knew directly how to get it. But you don't. So, sometimes even if you get a good deal, you have to ignore the fact that they probably made money off of you. It's just how the market works. So those are the two kinds of flipping that happens usually in Japan.
Yeah. So where are there websites that you look for these deals, or do you strictly work with agents to get off-market deals?
I don't use any agents because they're slow. I'm actually, not to be arrogant, I'm better than agents.
Okay. And do you have a license? You don't have a,
I don't have a license. It's just they don't think like I do. They don't think outside the box. They think just A, B, C, straight. This came up in here. They're not out like grinding and trying to get the next best thing, right? They're just doing their job. So you get the occasional guy who's a little bit helpful. Yeah, sure. Who shows me a property. Yeah. But they don't know a good deal when they see one. They're just office workers. Yeah. Unfortunately, because it's easy to get an agent license here, so a lot of them don't know what they're doing. Even when I go to advertise for my renters, sometimes they don't even know how to use a computer. Really? I had to step in there. I said I was waiting 3 weeks to get my advertisement up for the renter to find a tenant. And I'm like, 3 weeks later, we didn't get the pictures up. I literally walked behind the desk. I took my flash thing. I stuck it in his computer. There's the pictures. Let's put them in the file and put them on the website. No. Because I was so upset. I'm like, I signed the contract 3 weeks ago. You're making me 3 weeks to add pictures? That's your excuse? Yeah, I was really upset. And they're like, yes, sir. And like I couldn't do that. Yeah. Because I had the pictures all ready to go. Because we'll go take them. So I'm not waiting anymore. Here's my pictures. Put them up. And they were up the next day.
So you find deals yourself, right? And then find agents.
Well,
selling them. And
it's the agent.
Walk me through, kind of thing.
Sorry. Well, it's the house. When I look at a house, like so, there's 3 ways. You can go to Akiya Bank, like you can find used houses, which I never do because I'm not interested in those. Yeah. There's too many catch-22s, and they're usually not good houses. Why would anything be free that's good to rent out? So the Akiya Bank or whatever would be more for somebody who just wants to buy one house, a dump out in the middle of nowhere to fix it up and have fun with the project.
Yeah. It's not investments. Yeah. Basically.
I mean,
but for like happiness, maybe.
It could be an investment in the long future, but as an immediate rent producer investment, no. So in that investment, you'll just get the price going up. You won't make the rent on it. Yeah. So when I want a property, I want the rent. They're going up in value potential. Yeah. So even though Japanese properties don't go up that much, they have been recently. So I beat people on that. No, they're never going to go up. Yes, they will. Not as fast as America because we're not in a bubble, but they're still going up because of Corona and working from home. But you always get the rent, which is that's the key point. That's the number one. You buy a house for the rent. Number one, not it going up. People who buy it for going up are gamblers. That's like buying a stock. Yeah. Going up, appreciation is just a bonus. Yeah. The icing on the cake. That's it. That's the protection against inflation. Yeah. Protection of inflation. going up in value. If your
Cash
rents
flow.
is the cash flow is what you want. So the Akiya Bank, if you want to go that option, which I don't because I don't see that as viable for my situation, maybe in the future. Option number 2 is going to auctions, which I've tried a couple of times. You can go to the city halls and they show you a list of properties, which you can get really good deals on properties. But the problem is you're bidding blindly. Unlike America or Canada, I don't know how America does. I think Vancouver does auctions where you sit there and you bid on properties in front of other people. But here in Japan, you bid blindly.
What do you mean? Blindly?
You
You don't know what the property you're bidding on?
No, you get to see the property, pictures of it. You don't get to see the property, you see pictures of it. You get the estimation value of what it's worth, and then it'll be like 1/3 that price.
Oh wow.
So it's a really good deal. Yeah. It's really cheap.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's issues that come with some of the houses, like people are squatting or like there's always something or back taxes. There's different reasons. And that's another reason to know Japanese. You got to read those fine print details. It's really tough.
Yeah.
So, but what I mean by bidding blindly is that you throw in one bid how much you want to pay for the house. Nobody else sees that bid. So you're bidding against not only blindly, but how many people you're bidding against. You don't know. So I did it twice and I bid blindly and I lost both times. I'm not going to spend my time and effort thinking how much I should bid because you might overbid just because you want something too badly. I'd rather know how much a person wants for the property, see the price tag on it, and try to negotiate from there. Even though you might pay more than bidding, the time you waste on this bidding is not worth it. It was a good experience and I met an interesting person doing it, but yeah. So that was at the local city hall, and you can get some really good deals back then. Nowadays it's gone up as well because everything's going up a little bit more.
Okay.
And option number 3 is using websites like sumo.com, at home.
Just like Zillow for
America, yes. Those websites. So you just type in your criteria or the area you want, and you look at the prices, and I just look at properties under a certain value, and I just keep looking every day, and you don't have to buy if there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Just wait. Things pop up.
Yeah.
Most of my properties have come up one day poppers. I saw it pop up and I went to see it that day because when you see a good price, you think it's going to sit on the market? It's gone, like fast. So you got to act really quickly on properties.
Okay, so he's looking for an easy answer again. So basically, there are many ways to find a house, but instead of asking an agent to find you a house, you find the house yourself. So you go at home, then you go through the list and you find the houses you want, and then you approach that agent, the seller's agent, and go deal through there. You know, that way you can get the house you specifically want, and you can work directly with the selling agent. That's all you have to do. Now, if you want to hire an agent, then you're adding 2 more agents to the formula, which takes away the commission from one guy, so negotiation power is less, and your buyer's agent won't fight for you as much as you would for yourself. And that's why people hire me as well, because I'll fight for you, even though I'm not really an agent. I'm just somebody, a middleman that's helping you. Yes, it's an extra fee you have to pay, but it's totally worth it. Because I'm like a buyer's agent, but I will look out for you to get the best deal you can. And I don't take away from the seller's commission. So that's just a safe way to go. Unfortunately, in real estate, that's what happens, you know. And as a buyer, you won't know what's going on in most cases. Sometimes you will, but that's the benefit of using somebody like me, which is kind of a rare character because I'm new to the market. Most people are buyers and seller agents. Why would I be there? Why would anybody want to pay an extra fee when they don't have to? You got me, but those are the reasons, you know. And the best thing of all is I can actually save you money a lot of times on the purchase, so my service fee actually becomes worth it in some ways, or at least get cut down. Plus you get a great education, and you can do it on your own after that, usually. So yeah, Akiya Bank, I've never been successful with them. Marcin, my Polish client, we used Akiya Bank the first time, failed. And then the second time we tried to use them, you had to put your name in and get in order to see properties. So when you're coming over for only 3 weeks on vacation to see properties, you can only end up seeing one if you're lucky. So not only is there a waiting list for some properties, but you can only allow to see one property at a time. Maybe other Akiya banks do it differently, but this is the few that I've used. And this house I bought with Steve out in Ishikawa-ken, that was on the Akiya Bank originally, but it suddenly changed to an agent, luckily. So it was easier to get that way. So unfortunately, I don't like Akiya banks. It's not to say you can't do it, though. Auctions are a giant pain in the ass. I've tried 2, and I failed both times. You waste your time on it. You don't get to see the property. You might be getting a complete dump, so you don't know how much to bid. Even though you can get a better deal if you get lucky, but how many bids do you have to put in before you win? It's kind of frustrating, so I don't recommend them. However, the one good thing that came from those auctions, me attempting those, was after one of those auctions, I went to Udoa Station to one of the agents there, and I wanted to ask some questions to compare the 2 ideas, and they were nice enough to give me some answers. And when I went into that shop, I had to fill out a thing saying who I was and my phone number, etc. And guess what? 2 or 3 years later, those guys called me, and that's the agent that took me around to buy my first house in Saitama, my second property. So it's all connected some way. So I'm very thankful I did that. You know, even though it didn't work out for me, it actually worked out in another way.
So if you see something that you like, what exactly do you do? Do you call up an agent?
Oh, you send them an email, you sign the form up, and you speak Japanese, and you tell them why you want to see the property. I always start off with my email. I'm a little bit blunt on it. I say, I have this much cash. I want to, and I'm considering seeing the property. And that weeds out if there's potential. Unless I really, really, really want the property. But if it's something I'm iffy about, where I can make money off it, but I don't need it because there's other potential, and I can only buy 1 or 2 a year, right? So then I say that. And if I get an email response back, like I did with the last property I bought, you never know, because they're taking you seriously.
Wow.
You know, when I said I had 80,000 K in the bank cash, and when they respond to that, like even though the property was asking 12, and they respond, they're taking you seriously. They're not like, oh, he's offering way too low than we were considering. So that's the first step in the door. Now, if you really like the property, you wouldn't do that because you don't want to risk losing them just saying screw you off of the first step. Because like I said, Japanese are very dangerous at you losing the customer right away or the potential seller and buyer because the relationship matters.
Now, obviously, for you guys to mail directly is going to be tough because they might not even respond to you. And that's another reason why people use me. But that's the strategy you have to use to see a property on your own. Is you just got to give them a call or send them an email. Now, I used to do that starting out. I'd email them first, but now I just call them every single time just to get a quick response and just go see the property. And then I negotiate on the spot if I really like it because I'm not, things change and I adjusted to the times. The problem with mailing is that sometimes they miss the mail or they ignore it because they get a lot of inquiries. But if you call them directly and they can put a voice to your face, and then they're bound to take you more seriously, especially if you speak fluent Japanese. So that's the approach I do now, and it's worked out quite often actually. But at home is the best way to go. Just basically use the website. Oh, and there are 2 properties I was going to say. What I go to see. One is when a new property comes online. If I think it's a really good deal, I go to see it right away because it's going to get scooped up pretty quick. Or 2, second kind of property that pops up is one that was a decent property before, but it was overpriced. But it suddenly comes back on the market for a significantly lower price. Then you want to be the first one to see that because basically they did the negotiation for you because nobody bought it. Not everybody sees great deals. That's the risk of going right away to see a first property. Is you have to know if it's a good deal or not, and not to overpay.
Right. So that's the only ballsy thing I do.
So tell me about the program that you created.
Well, it's the program I made is an online website for studying English and or Japanese.
Yeah.
So everybody gets their account and they can choose if they're English speakers and want to study Japanese, or if they're Japanese speakers and want to study English. I have 2 languages so far. So maybe I'll add more later if things get more successful. But it was a lot of work to get that in there. And the reason I made it is because there was no app that I really liked at the time, and there were no books, and I wish I had something like this when I first started out because it tests me.
Yes, I made a website to study Japanese and English, but I'm going to revamp it.
Sort of say,
What's your favorite book? Maybe when it comes to real estate.
Back in the day, I only read a few, like Rich Dad Poor Dad, garbage.
Garbage.
Yeah, garbage. It's just these are people trying to make money off a book, right? I mean, the stuff he says in there is common sense, okay? Motivational stuff.
For a lot, common sense for some people, but not to a lot of people.
Well, if they need that, I mean, come on. It's like a motivational thing. It's a lot of fluff in the book, okay? If you want to read it and get something from it, that's great. But the way I learn is you want a book that shows you
like the how-to.
How-to, the example. So a book that gives you the 10% of fluff like Rich Dad Poor Dad, but spends 90% on actually, here's a real example of what I did to get there. Like real numbers. And 10 different examples. If you do this route, this is what's going to happen. If you do these 2 or 3 different routes, this is what's going to happen. So you learn a lot from those situations and you experience that. One of the books I read was, I think it's Robert Allen, his name is. Just a random book that my friend gave me when I was in my first year in Japan. I used to teach English in actually this area. I used to teach English in this area and I lived in Chiba because Chiba rent was really cheap when I moved from Naganoni. My second and third year I was in here before I went back to Canada for that stint. And
the reason I say it's garbage is because there's a lot of books that have that motivational stuff in it. And I want a book or a video that's going to show me how to do it. Give me some good advice and give me some examples. Not just get me motivated because I already was motivated. I just didn't know how to do it. I had some ideas in my head, but it took a proper book to actually give me some real life examples to show me, hey, this is very doable. Now, Robert Kiyosaki is kind of a grifter or what have you. He's just a businessman trying to make money. I don't like guys who sell ways how to get rich. I want people who sell real products and real things, real services. Not buy my program, I'll teach you how to get rich, which is the program to buy my program to be rich, like tiny little ads. It's scammy, like Tai Lopez style. That stuff just comes off as very scammy, and I don't want to be part of that. So, unfortunately, Robert Kiyosaki wasn't the book I liked. If you like it, good for you. If it helped you, I'm happy for you. But this is just my thoughts. The book I liked was Robert Allen. There's a little bit of sales in there as well, but he actually gave you some know-how examples. So, and I thank Josh very much for giving me that book because it wasn't for him. I might have been on this route, but it was like my second year or third year in Japan, and he's like, "Here, I got this book. Why don't you read it? you like real estate, don't you? And I'm like, yeah. But I was too busy focused on other parts of my life, my Japanese and paying off my student loan and saving for my money. And this was just before I went back to Vancouver, and he gave me this book. And thanks, Josh.
I traveled an hour and a half to get to work out here, and I remember walking to one of the schools that was near here, and I remember walking down the street, was it 25 minutes from the station? I'm like, I'm never going to live out here. And now, this is where half my empire is. It's just mind-boggling. Like, God's like, oh yeah, we'll see about that, buddy. Because I lived in Chiba and I worked here by chance. It was just by chance. I don't know why I didn't live here at the time. I guess I was trying to really save money at the time. You don't know Japan so much. You just looked at, and those days, there was no internet. At that time, you had to actually get a magazine to look for where places were.
Wow.
And out in Chiba, there was like, you'd get like a 2DK for like, was it Gomayen, 50,000 yen? And in Tokyo, that stuff is non-existent, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like Jumayen was big money at the time for me. And I was just coming here. I didn't have any money, so I had to make sure with me and my new girlfriend, wife at the time. And Chiba was the place. So I took 90 minutes to train to get here to work. And on the train ride, I spent a lot of time studying, back and forth, back and forth. So I studied Japanese a lot there too.
Wow.
As well as my friend gave me this one book that was on real estate, and I read it. And I already was good with numbers naturally, but the real estate book was good because it showed me, here are some real examples of what could be done. And at the time, it was in the back of my head. I didn't do anything on it because I was just starting out here. And the first thing I wanted to do when I came here is pay off my student loan. So I taught English. I paid my loan off in 9 months. It was a 13K, I think what I owed.
Wow.
Yeah, because in Japan, like I said, saving money on the cheap place and teaching English is a great job for newbies. People make fun of it all the time, but it's actually a great job. You could be coming from China or or India, whatever, and working in a convenience store for half the salary, working twice as hard. English teaching is easy and it's a decent salary. If you're smart with your money, you can make it work. I mean, I built my empire teaching English.
Is that what you started doing?
Yeah, I started teaching English.
And that's how you got your visa? Or
I had to work, my second visa, and then being married helped me get the visa, and I got my AJUCAN, my permanent residency after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, teaching English was just salary, and then you could add privates on top of that, right? So if I was making Sanjuman a month, 25, I need to go my yen and $2,500 plus 500 bonus. I have to translate this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, teaching English these days isn't as good as it was back in the day. And when I came here, it wasn't as good as it was even back in the day. Salary's gone down, quality has gone down. It is what it is, and there's a lot of competition now. Especially in the old days, the only English teachers were all from the big countries like Canada, America, Australia, England, etc. But now they're from every country around the world. So, yeah, which causes salaries to go down, unfortunately, and the product to go down. But it's still better than a convenience store, I think. But that's the key right there. Privates.
But about $3,000 a month, and I was not much expensive. I was able to save up really quick. So I saved up 20 grand in 2 years, I think it was 33 grand because I paid 13 towards my loan. So 33 grand in 2 years, and that was my first goal. I didn't think about anything, and then that's when I went back to Canada for that little stint there, and that's when I bought the property with my extra 20 grand. And here's a funny story, if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
I didn't live in Canada at the time. To get approved for a loan was very hard for me because I didn't have a job there or anything there. I had my dad. That's it, man. Who was willing to co-sign for me. And when I went to apply for the loan for the $72,000 condo I bought, I had 20K to put down as cash, which was technically in stocks at the time. I played the stock market for a few months just to get some experience in that, realizing that real estate's the only way to make money. Stock market is too stressful and going up and down like crazy. So I made a couple grand off of that, but it just took a lot of energy and stress and work to do that, to make 2 grand. So I sold. What I did before I sold it is I wrote down, I had 20 grand in cash and I had 20 grand in stocks on the loan paper. So it made me look like I had more equity than I actually had. Plus my dad was co-signing. So what I did is I took my stocks, I sold the stocks to get my 20 grand and I gave that as my cash. And I got approved for the loan. My dad was shocked. He's like, how did you do that?
Thanks, Dad. Thanks for having faith in me. My dad reluctantly signed, thinking I would never get it anyways. Thank God he was wrong. But I really appreciate the fact that he did that, because it created another journey on my life. And crazy stuff, man. My life is insane.
It was a miracle, and that was my first property that I ever bought, and it was like, And then I actually owned that property in Vancouver because I didn't want to waste money on rent. And then I got bored of Vancouver within 8 months. I'm like, I don't fit in here. I miss Japan too much. I gotta go back. No, because I knew that it was undervalued, and I basically rented it out for $700 a month, which my mortgage payments were like $400 or $500 a month. Yeah. And I wanted to pay off the mortgage ASAP. And when I phoned the company to do that, I was asking about all the details, how I do this. And he's like, and she told me straight up, "It's like, you know what, sir, you're very rare." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, nobody ever does this. I'm like, "What do you mean? When people want to pay down their loan to get their interest lowered?" I'm like, "No, they don't do it. They pay the minimum payments most of the time." Because I raised my payments 20% up, because every year you can do that, and I paid 20% towards my mortgage because you're allowed to do that. I wanted to pay my mortgage off as soon as I could. It was only a $50,000 mortgage at the time, so it was cheap, and I made money over here at the time.
So basically, you can take the leverage route and you can get more loans and not pay off your loans and invest more if you want. But I prefer paying my loan off as quick as I can. Why? Well, one, you save on the interest you're not wasting. But yeah, I know you can make money elsewhere to recover that and make more. But it's not just the money, it's also the stress. Once you have a bill paid off, you feel like you can relax. You don't have to feel pressure. Because if you have mortgages and you over leverage yourself, you can get caught in a real hard jam. And that's a lesson that a lot of people have to learn. So I like Dave Ramsey, not Robert Kiyosaki. Dave Ramsey's an all cash guy. You'll get there slower, but you feel really good about it when you do. You know? So, but it's up to you. You do you. You know? And you can learn through your own lessons as well. This is just my journey.
So when I bought the place, I got approved for that, and I came back here and I rented it out. And when I came back here during that time, it was 2007, was it? 6? Yeah, 2006 or 7 around there. And within 3 years, the property went up from 72K that I bought it at, I sold it at 172. So I made $100,000 profit in 3 years or whatever it was.
What if you kept it today?
It's probably worth $400,000. But that's the thing. But when something goes up $100,000 in 3 years, you're like, what the hell? Cha-ching! You're like, I'll take that cash right now, baby, because you can never imagine that going even higher.
Right.
It'd be nuts to go higher.
Right.
At the time, when I bought it for 17, people were like, what are you doing? That's such a shitty area. Nobody buys there. It's East Vancouver. Why would you buy there? I'm like, there was a whole bunch for sale. I said, if I had $1 million, I'd buy all of them.
Yeah.
This area is going to go up because the only area in Vancouver that was still cheap, whereas everywhere else was expensive. I'm like, it's connected to the same city, people. It might get cleaned up or something. It never got cleaned up, but it went up anyways. So in the 3 years, it went up to 170, and then after that, the Olympics came and everything, so things went nuts. So $400,000 or $500,000 now for a place like that. It was Commercial Drive, which is a very popular area of Vancouver as well, and I knew that. So I saw things that people didn't see, which is usually my case in a lot of things in life. But I sold it because I didn't want to deal with the stress of being a landlord from here anymore, and I was also going through other things with my ex-wife there at the time because I just bought my condo in on the Yamato line there, and I didn't need the money, but I wanted to. She said if I sell, maybe she'll think about something, and I didn't. She didn't think about anything, so it was a waste in that sense. But at the same time, I took the money and I ended up buying my second ranch in my school, which was good in a way because it got the ball rolling and all that stuff. So ironically, it was actually a good sale. So I made up for what I lost in potential future profits to invest into growing who I was as a person at that time. How many years ago was that? It was 2009, 10? Yeah, so 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And then that's when I bought the school, and then somebody stole my students, and then I had to start from square one again. And then, of course, I had at the time, because I sold my condo, I bought the school for X amount of dollars, and I put a few bucks into my place. I still had like 40, 50. That's why I actually have a picture of a stack of money, 75K.
Think about that, man. The 33K I saved allowed me to get that loan on that place, and if I didn't get that place and I didn't buy it, I would have wasted all my money on rent living there and I've been broke. But instead I bought a place. Not only did I save money on the rent, it went towards the equity, but I sold it for 100K profit later. So I won right there. And then taking that 100K, I basically bought my school and started my condo in my life here, and put it towards my first house as well here. So the chain reaction of good decisions is uncanny. So even if bad stuff happens in life, as long as you make 2 good things for every bad thing, you'll get ahead. Keep growing, and be appreciative, obviously. So a lot of good things had to come in a row to make this happen, and I am very appreciative. And, like in life, there's always plus and negatives. I made 100K in the place, but guess what? I lost my Black Lotus in that condo, or that apartment in Vancouver. And the Black Lotus is probably worth 100K now, so it's like, God gets you one way or another, huh? Crazy story.
Stories there. But I took the cash here and I had it, and I paid some bills off, and my mortgage and my school I bought, and I had a few bucks left over, and I had it saving up. And that's why I had the extra cash to actually help it easier when I bought my first house, because I had the cash ready to go. I never imagined buying that first house. But what happened was that my school was ironically in this area, on Matsuo, near there. The school's that area, and I lived. My friend's place is in Soka, you know that area? That's around there, because that's where I got divorced and I lived in one room there. And so he was only charging me like some money to live with him. Well, why not? And then eventually I said, I'm going to move to my one room after living with him for 2 years, because one room was right next to my school, and I was only making something million a month at my school. I was trying to build it up, right? It takes the first 2, 3, 4 years is really tough, and then it picks up. So I was trying to do that, and I moved into my one room, and it just so happened that when I moved into that one room, somebody gave me a call, because remember I tried bidding on those properties on the thing? But before I did that, I went to a real estate agent to ask for advice on that. And of course you have to sign out those forms, and they get your information right back. And this guy randomly calls me when I was in my one room. I just moved in. He's like, hey, you want to go check out some houses? I'm like, I wasn't really in the mood. I mean, school, stealing, my wife. I was just, I was good with money, but my mind wasn't half there. It was half there, but half not. He's like, come on, just see what's out there. I'm like, where'd you get my information? Oh, you signed a paper 2, 3 years ago. I'm like, oh, okay. And it just so happened that I moved there, right? If I was at the other house, I'd be lazy to go there. I was too busy. I was also focusing on my program. I was programming every day on that, like 12 hours a day, and teaching. That's all I was doing to get it done. He's like, just come out. So I went out with him on the one day, and he showed me a few properties around this area, and he showed me one that was 8 million yen. I'm like, this is a house for 8 million yen. I have 10 million at home right now. Because even though I wasn't making much money, my expenses were really low, so I was just padding every cent I had. Don't spend it. I don't waste money. And so I had the 10 million at the time. I'm like, So it was actually, he showed me 5 places, and I didn't like any of them. They were all actually decent price. They were about 10 million or under, just under. Didn't like any. They're all like shitholes and stuff. And I just wasn't in the mood to spend all my money on a shithole. And they showed me this one place that was in decent condition. I'm like, actually, this place is nice. My first house. And it just required a paint job and a new bathroom, stuff like that. But it wasn't like falling apart. And I'm like, why is it so cheap? And it's 12 minutes from Minamiro to the boot, which is a great location, right? Jeez. And it's because the land was technically not attached to the road. So, like I said, you can't get a loan. There's a lot of fidget details in there. It has to be cash. And at the time, I didn't know this. So I just sent an email to the joke. I really like that house she told me. If he could take 6 million yen, I'll do it. I was half serious and half joking. Like, I thought he would just laugh at me and say, no, maybe the lowest we can go is 7. And you responded right away, yeah, okay. That was his little answer, like, what? And I told my girlfriend, my current wife, I told her, I just bought a house from a one room. And I signed a contract to live in the one room for 2 years. And I had to pay a fee to get out of it. But within 6 months of living there, I was like, God's like, no, not today, son. He moved me into that house. Isn't that insane?
That's crazy.
You just never know. I mean, like you said, I wish we had those mentors. Nobody told me what to do. These are all just on the spot thinking, being in the right place at the right time, having the right funds, and knowing an opportunity when I see it, as well as getting my information out there so people find me when I need it. And that guy somehow pushed me to get it, and I bought the house. And I'm like, I have my own fucking house. This is cool in Japan, a foreign country, right? And now I had eliminated that entire expense. And then my school actually started picking off at that same time, right? So I was making, instead of 1,000, I was making 2,000. And my wife came in and started helping me. And like I said, she looks young for her age and the kids love her. She's very personable. So she attracted customers too. So as a team, we were great. Because I'm not a good liar. I'm not good at salesman that way. I'm not like, hey.
You don't have to lie to be a good salesman.
No, I don't. And that's why I was good at that part. But she added the final touch to it, where she made the Japanese feel comfortable.
Yeah. Colin, you're such an inspiration to me and to a lot of viewers who want to get into real estate investing and also move to Japan. Where can people find out more about you?
They can check my YouTube site. Kick Assets.
Kick Assets.
Kick Assets, that's correct. I'm still figuring out my identity. I like to help people learn through my experience and not me just telling them exactly what to do, because experience is the best way to learn.
Awesome.
I'm also doing Ibenkyo, which is my learning Japanese and English YouTube channel and website. Yes.
Awesome. 10 houses in 10 years. This is Colin from Kick Assets. Thanks for your time.
That's real. It's not fake.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you liked that video, and thank you, Shu, for giving me the interview and launching me on my life journey right now. But most important thing right now is this little guy, as he made it. Say bye, Mira. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Look at him. Bye-bye, everybody. Here. The most important thing to me is this guy. All right. Thank you. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, everyone. Mina-chan. Yeah. You want to say goodbye? Here as I'm working on the video. Interesting stuff. Real time, folks. Real time. See ya.